but then him just talking about his brother, or Nipsey's brother, and his wife and his children, hoping that his legacy is worth more than his end in a lot of different ways, and how he still lives on. And even though he's not here, he hopes that everything that he's done in his life is enough to save them from what Kendrick talks about with the culture. So it's a really interesting way and a really poignant way to wrap up a song that I thought he did a lot in that 5 minutes. He really, really spoke about a lot. It's a lyrical onslaught in a lot of ways, but it's really, really poignant. Really.
Let me put you on game.
And with that said, let's move into the last segment of our show. Let's talk about the return of K. Dot, Kung Fu Kenny, King Kendrick, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Duckworth is back with his new single, The Heart Part 5. I call it a single, but The Heart Part 5 is never, or the Heart series is never on the albums.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting development, but he's back with a new offering, I should say. How are you feeling about The Heart Part 5? What are your first and overall impressions of the track? And the video, because that's a necessary that's a necessary part of the discussion.
Yeah, per usual, K. Dot, Kung Fu Kenny, King Kendrick, he makes you think. He makes you ponder. He blows you away with his lyrics, with his flows, with his delivery. And now he's adding a striking visual component to it, with the influence of his PG Lang label and I think the ethos of artistic expression. He is starting to really make a name for himself, and I'm glad that he's back here. I love the way he rolled out this single, the way he's been rolling out his projects, the way that he has everybody kind of on his shoestrings, just wondering and guessing at his next move and his every move. I think he understands what the assignment is, and I think he's executing it well. I thought that this was an amazing track. I was thrown off in the beginning because I thought his flow and the way he was delivering his lines on the instrumental was really choppy in the first half of his verse, but he settles in. And once he settles in, you just kind of get roped into the story that he's telling, and the stories that he's telling, actually. And it got me almost teary towards the end of the track because of the earnest and the sincerity that you feel. You know, him thanking his fans, you know, even if you gave me a listen once, he was appreciative of that. And I love that. I love that humility that he kind of oozes on this track, and the vulnerability that he shows in him talking about the subjects that he talks about, from the culture to his impact and what he wants to leave. I think he wrestles with the same feelings of mortality that we all wrestle with. And so I appreciate that he gave us his all, as he's known to do. You know, Kendrick came with another great song, and I appreciate the Heart series as a result. How about you? What are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I echo a lot of those sentiments. I think we use this term a lot when we talk about basketball players, but I think Kendrick is a one of one. I think he's shown it album in and album out that there's not really anyone like him. Overall, the song, I was really, really impressed with his discussion of the culture and how Black culture is an entity all in and of itself in a lot of different ways, but he kind of really dives into the damage that it can do to our communities and to us as people, because there are a lot of cultural staples that are great and a lot of cultural staples that are harmful to the Black diaspora as a whole. So yeah, he really got into that on the course of this song. The video was great because his lyrics line up with the facial changes, depending on whose perspective he's speaking from or talking through, which is a genius level of thought in terms of creativity and also in terms of the actual lyrics themselves. To get into the verses, yeah, I think he really sets the tone by saying, I come from a generation of pain where murder is minor. And he's spoken about that on his previous albums, where he's discussed the murder of friends and his own participation in violence and how minimized that is in his community, and how that in and of itself has become a part of our culture, and how that can do damage to people around you. But yeah, what are some of your thoughts on that first verse?
Yeah, man, like some of these, I think the one that hit me the hardest were two lines here. Desensitized, I vandalize pain, covered up and camouflaged. Get used to hearing arsenal rain. Analyze, risk your life, take the charge. Homie's done your baby mama once you've hit the yard. That's culture. I've heard those lines in rap songs far too many times. You know what I mean? Like homie goes to jail, somebody goes to jail, and somebody, you know, slides into his baby mama's DMs and takes care of the family, you know, while he's away, and you know, figuratively speaking. And it's frustrating to hear those lines and like him really dissect some of the stuff that is glorified, but when you put it in plain language, it's like that's kind of whack. And then, you know, this line at the end, get out and get his brains, you know, I done seen is do 17, hit the halfway house, get out, get his brains blown out, looking to buy some weed, car wash is played out, new GoFundMe accounts, so proceed. A brand new victim will shatter those dreams, the culture. The amount of GoFundMe accounts and campaigns that I've seen over the last few years related to somebody's need for funeral expenses, because funerals can cost, and you know, upwards of 10 grand. And it's one of those things that people get blindsided by, in terms of how expensive it is to either transport a body, you know, buy a casket, have the funeral proceeding somewhere. It's almost, unfortunately, it's like half the price of a wedding, and it's just to bury a loved one and to, you know, kind of bring closure for a family. So it's really sad how it impacts us, and nobody can afford it. And that's one of the things that isn't spoken about, but it's very prevalent in the culture. So he does a good job of breaking that down. And those are some lines that really hit me. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. Even the line about yeah, all of those lines in the beginning for sure. But there's a lot that sticks out to me. The homie line was definitely dope. The one that stuck out to me in the first verse was make the wrong turn, be it will or the wheel alignment, and talking about, you know, making the wrong decisions, whether it's your own will or it's like almost the wheel alignment of a car, and how like if your wheels are misaligned on a car, you almost can't control what direction you go in. So I kind of took that as like, you know, the culture and the area that you're in influencing what you do more than you do,
Mm.
you know. So that was dope. And then in the second verse, um the line that hit me the hardest was he said niggas going to work and selling work, late for work, working late, praying for work, but he on paperwork. And that's a cycle that so many people find themselves in, where they're going to an actual 9 to 5 but also selling stuff on the side to make it by, but then also like working late and also trying to make your money, but then praying for work, either praying for a new job or praying that you actually get more drugs to keep to fund this lifestyle that you're trying to live. But he's also on paperwork, so he's within the system. So it's a really interesting dynamic there. And I think he does a lot in this second verse. But yeah, is there anything about the second verse that stuck out to you?
Yeah, you know, that portion at the end where he references Will Smith, you can get the face change, and he says, "And the land where hurt people hurt more people, F calling it culture." I thought that was just like, oof, he's really going in. He's really talking about and has paid attention to a lot of what is going on. And I just love how he kind of ties these themes together, lyrically and then visually, with the deep fake technology, and just him showing like him being aware, painfully aware of the future. Because as he's describing all of this, he's not just using those visuals to demonstrate those people, he's wearing their skin to empathy, and it shows a certain amount of empathy towards them, as well as frustration with some of those same individuals, whether it be a Kanye or a Jussie Smollett or OJ or Will Smith, and showing the pain that they embody as Black men. And Kendrick kind of being the mouthpiece to say certain things that they have said, or represent certain things that they have represented. It's really a fascinating take, and I just love that portion of this second verse.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah,
yeah,
then he
now
goes into
continue.
that last verse with changing the perspectives again, into Nip, and speaking from his perspective and talking as if, you know, he wants to discuss his own death, which is really jarring. And I think Kendrick's, of course, the perfect person to speak from that perspective, as someone that's from a similar background. But then him just talking about his brother, or Nipsey's brother, and his wife and his children, hoping that his legacy is worth more than his end in a lot of different ways, and how he still lives on. And even though he's not here, he hopes that everything that he's done in his life is enough to save them from what Kendrick talks about with the culture. So it's a really interesting way and a really poignant way to wrap up a song that I thought he did a lot in that 5 minutes. He really, really spoke about a lot. It's a lyrical onslaught in a lot of ways, but it's really, really poignant close to a really great track for me. What about you?
Yeah, man. The lines that coincided with Kobe's face were really impactful, and I think that although he was rapping in Nipsey's perspective, and while engaging in the deep fake technology showing Nipsey's face as well, I also thought he was rapping from his own perspective in a lot of ways, and how those two kind of blended and mirrored together. Because whether it be a song like Mortal Man, where or several points on Damn where he's contemplating his own death and how it might come to an end, it's like Nipsey ended up living the fears that Kendrick felt, the paranoia that Kendrick constantly feels. And I thought that he did a remarkable job of connecting his own fear of his own mortality with his audience. Something that, again, I feel like we all kind of share. We all think about, man, how are we going to die? And then as a Black man, I'm thinking, man, is it going to be about straight bullet? Like, I'm living in New York City where the homicide rate is the highest that's ever been in years, in recent memory. And so I kind of struggle with these same fears and the same kind of paranoia. So, shout outs to Kendrick for really putting the lyrics to my deep, the deep thoughts in my psyche.
For sure. Dope track that really speaks to a lot of us. Let us know what you thought about The Heart Part 5, and has it got you excited for the new Kendrick project? We're going to review the new Kendrick project, Mr. Morale and the Big Stepper. So tune in for that next week. Great show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're super excited about the playoffs and the music that we got coming. So tap in with us. We appreciate y'all. We out.
Peace and love, everybody.
Thanks for checking out this segment of the Put You On Game podcast, where we discuss everything from hoops to hi-hats.
Give us your thoughts on the video in the comment section, and you can also find the full podcast in the link in the description below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.